Hey guys, so this is going to be one of our review slash resource videos. So this is going to be kind of the first one of many. So in this video, we're going to talk about unit conversions, and this is something that you may have talked about in class before, either in your current chemistry class or maybe in a biology class or physical science class or something like that. So let's kind of review what in the world an actual unit conversion is. So this is when we're gonna use this to change units. Okay, but we're gonna use it when the units are related to each other. So they've got to have some kind of relation. Okay. Okay. For example, we might change centimeters, which is a very small unit of distance, to kilometers, which is kind of a large, think of miles. And we could even change from kilometers to miles because there is a conversion factor there. If we were talking about volume, we might change liters, which is a lowercase l, to microliters, which is very little. So a liter, think of like a big thing of Coke is a 2-liter bottle. So we might change that into microliters, which is a very, very teeny tiny amount of volume. We might change miles to kilometers, like I said. We might change something like milligrams, which you've probably weighed in before, to something like grams or kilograms, okay? And a lot of times they depend on these prefixes, and this is what we'll kind of talk about a little bit more. You use these all the time without even knowing, right? So if somebody says, I'll be there in 90 minutes, right? I'll be at your house in 90 minutes. You're going to automatically translate that to an hour and a half, right? So you're going to put that into hours. That is a unit conversion. You do it all the time, okay? So I want you to not get so caught up in the math, and I want you to kind of think about how you use this all the time. So I love this visual. I think it really kind of shows what we're doing. So if we look at this cube, this is 1 meter cubed, right? So even if you just looked at one of these, right? And then if we were talking about a decimeter, 1 meter has 10 decimeters in it. So a decimeter is going to be smaller. That's what this dm is, a decimeter. And then you can think of a centimeter. There are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So 1 meter cubed is going to have 100 cubic centimeters in it, okay? And don't worry too yet about this last conversion factor. So like we said, we're going to use these prefixes. So usually what I want you to think about is everything compared to the base. So this is what we call the base. This is going to be things like grams, liters, meters, right? I want you to think of the base, okay? And then we're going to compare everything to the base. So deca, hecto, kilo, those are all three going to be larger than the base. So there is going to be 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. Okay, there are 10 meters in 1 decimeter. Decameter, sorry. Okay, so I want you to think about it in that way. How many, if it's larger than the base, how many bases are in that thing? There are 10 to the 9th, which is a billion meters in a gigameter. We might not use meters for that. We might call it bytes, right? So if you think about computers, I know you've all heard of a gigabyte before. There are 1 billion bytes in a gigabyte. There are 1 million bytes in a megabyte, right? So when you send pictures to each other or you send attachments or whatever, and you see that megabyte, it's the same thing. Then when we go the other way, when we go smaller, we're going to talk about how many of the smaller thing are in the base. So for example, there are 1,000,000 micrometers in a meter. Okay, that's hence this 10 to the 6. It is 10 to the minus 6, I'm sorry. It is smaller. Okay, milli, micro, nano, pico, those are all smaller than the base. Okay, so if it's smaller, you need to think about it in terms of it in a base. If it's larger than the base, you think about the base in it. And I've got a chart to make it a little easier, I promise. So I did the small units separated from the big units. Nano, micro, milli, centi. Those are the ones that we will use. Okay. If you decide to go into nanotechnology or something like that, you might use pico, right? But we're going to talk about nano, micro, milli, and centi. Okay. And I gave you this nice little thing that says how many of these things are in the base. So if you have a nanoliter, which is a ridiculously small amount, then you have 10 to the 9th, which is the same thing as 1 billion nanoliters in a liter. Okay, you have 1 million microliters. Sorry, my pen doesn't work very well. 1 million microliters in a liter. 1,000 milliliters in a liter, or 100 centiliters in a liter. Okay, so the smaller they are, you're trying to talk about the number in the base. Okay, and that base would be liters or grams or meters. Okay, this a version of this chart is also on your haiku page. It's on the very it's on your Unit 1 haiku page, so you have this, or you can take a screenshot. Okay. The large units, we're going to talk about the number of bases in them. And again, for this class, we're going to mostly use kilo and mega. Okay. So again, if we go to liters, we're going to talk about there are 1,000 liters in a kiloliter. There are 1 million liters in a megaliter. Okay, so you've got to keep those straight. Once you do that, you're gold, you're set. Okay, so I set up some practice problems. I'm going to get out my handy dandy calculator, and we're going to practice. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is pause the video right now. I want you to pause, and I want you to try to work these out based on the things we've done in class or the things I've talked about. Try and figure out how you might convert 5.66 micrometers to kilometers, okay? And then I will help you. So pause, try, and then I'll help you. All right, so hopefully you paused and worked it out. So this is what I would do. There are more than one way to skin a cat. So if you still get the right conversion at the end, but you did it a little bit different, let's talk about it in class, and let's talk about how you might solve it. So what I would do is I would say, okay, we've got 5.66 microliters, and we want to go to, micrometers, sorry, and we want to go to kilometers. Well, what I would do is I would say, okay, I want kilometers to be on top at the end. And I know that for every 1 kilometer, I want to go back to my conversions. I'm going to say, okay, I have 1,000 meters. Okay, I'm going to write with my hand. Okay, and then I would say, okay, so if there are 1,000 meters for every kilometer, how many micrometers are there in every meter? So I'm going to put, okay, I'm going to say 1 meter for every 10 to the 6 micrometers. Okay. And what I can do, and then I have 5.66 micrometers. Okay. And so what I've done by doing this is I can say, okay, I'm going to get rid of meters, I can get rid of micrometers, and then all I have left at the end is kilometers. Okay, so I'm going to throw this into my calculator, 5.66 divided by 10 to the 6. and then divided by 1,000, and I get a teeny tiny little number. And we haven't talked about scientific notation yet, but I got this really, really small number that's 5.66 times 10 to the minus 9. Okay, so there are not a whole lot of micrometers in kilometers. I mean, this is a teeny tiny amount to go. Okay, let's do it with megaliters to centiliters. Okay, so again, I want you to pause the video. I want you to try and convert 14.7 megaliters to centiliters. All right, so hopefully you paused. So we've got 14.7 megaliters. So this is going to be in capital M, not a lowercase m. And we want to go to centiliters. And again, what I would do is I would say, okay, I want centiliters at the end, right? But this time we're going to have 1 liter per 100 centiliters, because centa means 100, and we know it's smaller. So we have 100 centiliters for every liter, and we're going to multiply that by how many liters in a megaliter, and that should be 10 to the 6th, or 1,000,000 liters in a megaliter. Okay, and then what we can do is to get rid of our 1 megaliter, we say 14.7 megaliters. Okay, so again, we cross out those megaliters, we cross out the liters, and we're left with centiliters at the end. So I'm going to pull out my calculator. 100 times 10 to the 6 times, times 14.7, and I got an enormous number. I got 147 with 7 zeros. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. In a later video, we will learn how to convert that to scientific notation, because that is an ungodly number, right? So there are, let me see if I can say this number, 1,470,000,000,000 centiliters in 14.7 megaliters. That is an unbelievable number. Okay, next one. Again, try to solve it. Pause it now. Try to solve it. Okay, this time we're going to go from 12,000 grams. Okay, 10 to the 9th nanograms for every 1 gram. And then I'm just going to multiply that by 12,000 grams. So again, this is going to be an unbelievable number. 10 to the 9th times 12,000. And this one just gave it to me in scientific notation because my calculator didn't want to work that hard. 1.2 times 10 to the 13th, which is a number I don't know the name for. Nanograms, okay? So a lot of nanograms in 12,000 grams. All right, last one. We're going to do 5,304 seconds, and we're going to convert that to minutes, okay? This one you should be able to do. This one's easy, 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 easy. So pause the video, try. All right, so I have 5,304 seconds, and I want to convert that to minutes. Well, all you have to think about is how many seconds are in a minute, okay? And we know that there are 60 seconds per 1 minute. So you're going to say 1 minute on top, 60 seconds on the bottom, and then in order to get rid of that seconds, you're going to multiply that by 5,304, okay, seconds. And so that should give us something actually reasonable this time. So 5,304 divided by 60 is going to be 88.4 minutes. And if we wanted to, because that is larger than 60, we could even convert that to hours, right? So we could just divide again by 60 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. We could multiply 1 hour over 60 minutes, right? And do a little 88.4 divided by 60, and that would give us 1.47 hours if we wanted to do that, okay? Keep practicing. I can give you 100 practice problems if you would like. The key here is to remember the prefixes, okay?